Hey everyone, Gary Simon here of Corsetro. Happy 4th of July. And if you don't live here in the United States, then that's a shame because this really is the land of the free. For instance, I have 2 daughters, and if they want to set up a lemonade stand, they're not going to be harassed. Wait, what? Okay, if I'm feeling depressed, at least I can smoke a plant that makes me happy and no one's going to... All right, fine. I can at least go outside and collect my own rainwater. Okay, all right. I think it's our duty as designers and developers and internet marketers to use the power of technology, HTML, CSS, to spread an awareness campaign to let's make freedom great again. All right, did I drum that up enough? Did I play it up enough? Well, anyhow, today I'm going to show you from scratch how to create this animated little illustration powered completely by CSS and HTML. Now get this, the HTML for this here is only 5 lines, all right? And the rest is a bunch of CSS properties that I will walk you through. So with the spirit of today in mind, which supposedly is freedom, do you think the government should give everyone free internet access? That is today's question, and I want you to put your question in the comments there. I'm going to provide mine as the very first comment, but you know what? Don't read mine first. Just answer the question and really think about it. You know, what is free? Is it really free? Is it not free? Who pays for it? All right, so go ahead and subscribe here if you haven't yet, and let's get started. All right, so right now I have my code editor on the left, which is Visual Studio Code. It's from Microsoft, and it's a free code editor. Go ahead and download it if you want. Use Google. Over here on the right-hand side, I have just a browser ready to go so that it'll live update when we code this. So I'm going to make an index.html in a blank folder, by the way, that I've opened up and I've created, and also a main.css file. If you've been following along the past few weeks, this is pretty much the way I start every single program. So now I just hit the exclamation point and hit enter, and that'll give us some boilerplate HTML. I'm going to hit Control B to get rid of that sidebar, and then coming right here, we're going to type in link, enter, and that will give us our link URL, href equals main.css. That'll get us our CSS file. Let's just put 4th of July here or something. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And now the HTML, as I said before, I can hit Control Plus, by the way, to make this a little bit larger so you can see things. Like I mentioned, there's only, what is it? It's about 4 lines. Yeah, no, 5 lines of just custom HTML. So the first one's going to be a div ID of container. That's going to house everything. And then just our 3 type elements. So H3, let's make freedom. I'm just going to replicate this. So Shift Alt down arrow key twice. This one's going to be an H1 tag because it's the biggest. And yes, by the way, you can use multiple H3 tags in H2 as long as it makes sense. And in this context, it does make sense. We'll put great again here. And then also our main text, happy 4th. Okay, so if I save this, by the way, I didn't mention this, I meant to mention this. When you're doing any type of illustration like this, like typographic, you want to make sure, if you want some depth in it and extra style to it, make sure you plan it. So get into something like Adobe Illustrator or if you any type of vector drawing application, and simply get a good idea of what you're doing. It's no different than when you're doing UI design for like a web or an app. You want to step into something like Sketch or Experience Design and get a solid idea of exactly what you want to do. Same thing with this. This isn't what the end result exactly looked like, but it really gave me a strong starting point. And then I added some stuff afterwards in HTML and CSS. All right, so once we have this, we're going to Control B and we'll right click and open with Live Server here. All right, so here's our ugliness that we get by default without any CSS. So Control B. Let's get going. So very first thing I'm going to do, we're going to set up a CSS grid in order to center horizontally and vertically our little illustration. So body and HTML, we're going to set the height to 100% by default. Doesn't really change anything, except it gives us a little scroll bar down here, which you can't probably see, it's behind me. And then also our body tag, we're going to put in a background. This is a light blue, so it's C9. EDFF. And I just grabbed that from my Illustrator document when I created it. Font family, as always, Montserrat. And I have this installed, so that's why it's working. Otherwise, you're going to use Google Web Fonts to import it at the top of the CSS file here if you don't have it installed. It's a free font, though. You can download it. Margin 0 to get rid of any inherent padding. Display grid. There we go. We got our grid set up already. Now we have to put in grid template rows. We only have one. I'm just going to say auto. And then also justify items. So everything that's inside of this grid container, we're going to justify items and align items center. So that will mean taking this, align items, ta-da, we got our absolutely the horizontal and vertical position stuff going. That's how easy it is with the CSS grid. All right. Continuing on, our H1 element. All right, font size, first and foremost, we want it to be bigger, right? Yeah, of course, so 5 EM. Haha, fives, that's why it didn't work. Size, all right, 5 EM. Yeah, that's looking better. Text shadow, so this is how we're going to add this effect as seen right here. All right, we kind of have like a nothing happening here seemingly in this middle part, and then we have a little shadow. So what we'll do is put in 5 pixels by 5 pixels. That means take it, push it down on the bottom 5 pixels into the right 5 pixels, and then a color code. The color code is going to be the same as this up here. I should use Sass for this so we can use variables and we don't have to repeat things, but I don't know, I'm just lazy. And then we're going to put a comma for another text shadow, and that's going to be 8 pixels by 8 pixels. RGBA, we'll put in 0, 0, 0 point, actually, what did I use initially? It's really, yeah, 0.19, and that was based on my Illustrator opacity for that layer. So now, there we go, we save. So RGBA, of course, here is red, green, blue, alpha. And so we want black. So the RGBA value for black is 0, 0, 0. And then alpha is basically opacity, and we're putting it at 0.19. All right, so it just gives us this little subtle effect. Awesome. All right, so now continuing on, we're going to put in margin 0 to reset any padding that is on the H1 by default. All right, it brings things a little bit closer together. And that's it for now. We're actually going to add some animation to that at the end. So let's put a blank space right there. All right, and continuing on, our H3, or H3s rather, we have 2 of them. Font size, 1.5 EM, just a little bit bigger. And then we're going to put margin 0 on the top and bottom, 25 pixels on the right and left. So it's moving both of them in a little bit, but we're not done yet, obviously. So if we refer back to this document, we have one that's kind of over here to the right, one that's over here, and we have these borders that we're seeing, these little lines. So now let's focus on that stuff. So we can use H3. So on our H3, we're going to add these little lines to the right and left. And the way we can do that is through a pseudo class called before and then H3 after. And this allows us to insert content, empty content, before and after the element. So position absolute, we're going to apply for this content, which will allow us to move it around. And then border top, we'll say 2 pixels solid, RGBA, 0, 0, 0, and maybe 0.3. All right, now we haven't seen anything just yet because now we're going to reference them individually. The reason we don't see any content or any lines here is because we haven't specified a width or anything. But the width of each of these 4 lines that we're going to see, because there are 4 as shown here, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're different. So we're going to reference them through another pseudo selector called nth of type. All right, so here's how this works. We put in H3, nth of type. All right, we can see we have our little helper here from Visual Studio Code, and we're going to put 1. So nth of type 1 basically means the first instance of H3, of our H3 value. So it's this is going to be referencing let's make freedom right there. This is the first one. All right, and then we'll put in before pseudo selectors. So we have multiple pseudo selectors on here. Things are getting crazy, and then we're going to put width. We could use pixels and we could use percentages or EM. I'm going to use percentage, 3%. All right, there's a little dude right there, but it's all messed up, not in the right location. Height, we could set at 4 pixels. And then also margin, we'll say 3% from the top, 0 on the bottom, 0 on the right, and then on the left, we'll say -4%. All right, and that doesn't quite look right at this point. It's not supposed to be that low. But here's the thing. We're going to be using this transform technique to change things. Let's do that right now before I go any further with these lines. So to do that, all we have to do is I'm going to reference our 3 elements, which is H1, H3, and just that for now. And then we're going to use actually a tool. Let's go there real quick. This tool that we're going to use is right here, angrytools.com/css-generator/transform. And it's basically a generator for CSS transform code. So what we can do is we can say on our SKU, we want to skew something. It has a little slider. It lets us control it. And it'll just provide us with the code for that real quick. So I think I like 0.2 or between 3. I think I'm going to change it to 0.25. So then we copy that code and we're going to place it right here. And I'm just going to, we can save it right now. You can see how this works. There, now it looks like it's in the center. So now I can change, I want 0.25, a little bit more. So we change that value right there. And right here, these are just vendor prefixes. All right. So now let's continue on. Next one, let's just copy this, by the way. Next one is going to be after. So after this one, that's going to make this line over here. And then we have to just adjust this. And really to get there, you can see if we save that just without editing the information, it's too small. It's not in the right location. So what I did initially when preparing this project was I just experimented. So I put around 36% was how long it needs to be. And then the height 4, of course. And then our margin is simply 2%. That's the only value that changes here. And that looks to be pretty good. Might want to make the width a little bit more so, maybe around 37. Hell, maybe 40. I don't know, things sometimes change. Oh, I probably know why. It's because I haven't yet put in a text transform of uppercase on our H1 and H3. So let's do that real quick. Now it's going to be too long. Yep, because it just enlarged that. All right, so go with your gut, dude. 36, there we go. All right, so now that's looking too long. There we go, 35%. All right, let's do the bottom one real quick. So I'm just going to copy this. So this is going to be 2 and 2. Of course, this doesn't exactly work out. So we're going to change these up just real quick. The width of our before is going to be 130%. Oh, and by the way, this one needs to float to the right. So yeah, this one right here, we need to access references specifically. So what we do is H3 nth of type 2, and we say float right. And then we'll do margin top here at -5% just to get it closer. And then let's continue working on down here. So we have 130% here, 4% for the height. And then we have to really change this stuff up. This is going to be 6%, 0, 0, and -135%. And that's what worked out well. So you really just have to experiment with the values going in the negative direction as well to make sure some of this stuff works. And then finally for after, this is about 10%. Oops. And then this is going to be 6% for the margin up top because we need to push it down a little bit more. And then this is 3%. There we go. Sweet. Why is that red looking? Okay, I messed something up. I was wondering, is there something wrong with my eyesight? This is like there's a red tint to the this stuff down here. Let's go find that real quick. Yeah, something happened there. What happened there? Sometimes yeah, this will happen. You hover over a value and you accidentally change it. So that's kind of a bad thing. They need to fix that. There we go. Much better. Let me reset that. All right, cool. So now let's also add a star in the background. And this, surprisingly wouldn't require us to actually add any type of extra markup. We could just use our div ID container here. All right, so, and we use the before pseudo selector or pseudo class. I'm always saying selector for some reason. And then this one has a lot of properties, but don't worry, don't crap yourself. Content, empty. All right. Then what we're going to do is use our final tool right here called Clippy. And so I've covered this before, but it's cool. It's a real quick way to get some CSS using the clip path property. All right, and this creates shapes for you using pure CSS, and there's things over here. So just to stick with the relevant theme of the 4th of July, we'll put star. It doesn't include this image. It's just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And by the way, you can do cool stuff like that, and it updates it here, all the values automatically. So I want the star. We're just going to copy these 2 lines, and we're going to paste them. All right, we don't see anything yet because we still have more properties we need to specify. All right, so coming up next, we're going to give it a background. RGBA 000 and then 0.08, so it's almost invisible. We're going to put position fixed, and these next few properties are just to help me, or position fixed rather, is to make sure it stays there in the center. Height, we're just going to give it a fixed height of 700 pixels, a width of 700 pixels, and we'll say top 0, left 0, bottom 0, and right 0. And this is a quick fix to center horizontally and vertically an element that is on position fixed. Yeah. All right, so it's not done yet though. In order to do it, we're just going to change this to auto. And there we go. Awesome, awesome stuff. So at this point, you could be happy with it and maybe be done. But for the heck of it, we'll just go ahead and add some animation to it, just to show you real quickly how we can do that with another really cool tool. I lied, there was one more. So coming over here, let's go to Animista. What the heck is it called? There we go. Animista, yeah, that's right, .net. All right, CSS animations on demand. All right, so there were 2 that I picked out of these presets, these animation presets. So sorry about that, my phone's going off. And let me find that. It's in a notepad document. Scale up, horizontal center. All right, so scale up is already here. Horizontal center is right there. That's the one we're going to use. It's a preset. You have options over here where you can define the duration of this. I'm going to make this last a little bit longer. It's going to be 1 second. There we go. And then when you're ready, we click on this little icon here, and then we go ahead and, you know what? I don't want to put auto prefix. I'm trying to save space a little bit. We copy this property here and we place it on the element that we want this to be applied to. So for our case, it's going to be this element container. This is going to be placed on the star that we have, and then we have to copy the keyframes. Just copy that. And it's not going to work correctly. It's going to mess it up, and you'll see why. Now it just screwed up our perspective. It completely removed it because it's using this transform property, but it doesn't copy over, naturally, this matrix stuff over here. So what we'll need to do is just copy this property, apply it to the end of this and that. There we go. Now it works. And now we could probably just get rid of this. Yep, and we're good to go. Let's do another one, like the happy fourth. Let's make that slide in on its current trajectory and the angle. So the second one that I used is one called slide-tr. So let's find that. So it's slide-tr. So it kind of goes in the general direction, but we'll still have to make some edits to it to make sure it works correctly the way we want it to be. We'll make this one, we'll say, yeah, we'll just keep it consistent at 1 second. All right, so now we'll take this, no auto prefixer, copy that. And by the way, if you were doing this for real in production, you would want to use auto prefixer for to make sure it works in other browsers. And then what is it? It's the H1 element, right? Yeah, so we're just going to apply it right there, as I mentioned before, the empty space. And then finally, you know the drill, copy the keyframes, come here to the bottom, put this right here, and it's not going to work. It's going to break it again. See, it removes that, and we just have to do that same annoying thing. Just copy this. All right, and at the end of there, on the 0 and 100%, and still not right because it's really pushing it from 0, its starting point, to -100 on the Y and 100 on the X. So to fix this, we just have to make a real quick adjustment to these properties. So what we do is, let me scale this up here. This one, these two are all 0. And the translate Y on this one is going to be 30 pixels or so. And the translate X on this one is going to be -100 pixels. So before saving it, there we go, guys. Yay. And again, it's worth reiterating. You know what might be better? Let's go back up to this content thing. Let's make this like 1300 pixels so it really fills out the browser. There we go. Awesome. And what's really cool and what's worth reiterating, like I was saying, is this is only 5 lines of HTML to create something that's fairly complex like this. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed that and found a lot of use in learning how to use HTML and some interesting CSS techniques to create really what is quite an elaborate illustration just out of 5 lines of HTML. All right, make sure again to remember to comment in the comment section here. And the question is, do you think the government should get everyone free internet access? All right, so make sure you subscribe here once again, and I'll see you guys real soon.